Know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
Welcome, UFO chasers, T-800s, and body-stealing lizards, to episode 439 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 15th of February, 2022, and featuring The Vault of Secrets, written by Phil Ford, and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Anjali Mohindra as Ronnie Chandra, and Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and with me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Good evening.
Alex Fireheart.
God, I just have the Men in Black theme stuck in my head on repeat.
And Mad Matt Winchell.
My feet are dying.
I thought of starting with the hook of the Men in Black theme, but I cannot sing it, and your ears would be bleeding, and then we'd have to cancel the podcast.
Here come the Men in Black.
Oh, look at that. You caused his retinas to explode. Huh. Interesting that.
Won't let you remember. Yeah, I know the frickin' yeah.
Yep, I'm not even going to try.
I shouldn't have.
Didn't do too bad of a job.
No, it caused me to start coughing.
Silence.
The thing is, I don't remember any of Will Smith's lines from that song.
Feel like I'm going to break this thing. Holding the cricket for the first time.
Okay. No, I meant from the song.
Oh.
So how's everybody's week been?
Not too bad.
Replace my coffee maker.
Oh. In short, I've worked like the last 4 days. One of those days went from a 3-hour workday after a meeting into a 8.5, or actually now 9-hour workday after the meeting.
Ugh.
So yeah, it's felt like I've been even though it's barely been the start of the week, it's felt like I've spent all week at the work already. Thankfully, I have the next couple days off.
Last week you had to cancel about everything that you do with us because it's like, gotta work.
Well, actually, I canceled this last week because we had technical difficulties. And then I found out you guys started really late anyways.
No, I meant Wednesday night.
Wednesday night had to be canceled because, I had work.
Saturday night had to be canceled because you had to work.
Yeah, I found out suddenly I had to work on Saturday. Like 15 minutes after I was supposed to be there. I didn't see messages on my phone until I came up from eating dinner with my folks, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, why are there messages? Listen to the message I was left. You're fucking kidding me. And this is 2 hours before I was due in to be ready for D&D.
I'm just like, okay, I'm going back to bed then.
And then yesterday was an extremely squirrely day, not only working from 3 until close, but also lots of weird off issues. Literally at one point it got so bad that I was trying to help a guy to call across town to see if they had the NyQuil he was looking for. Tried calling their number without a 1 in front of it. Just ring once and then click and nothing. Went, what the hell? Called it with 1 first, and then I got somebody else's random phone number. Wasn't even the store at all. It's just like, you know what? I give up. I'm not sure what we're connecting to here, but it ain't a normal phone line, I swear. It's just absolutely bonkers. It's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done even trying to touch this phone right now. I don't know what's going on, but it is not going where it needs to. And I ordered a t-shirt today because I felt like it, and I know I've got a ton of extra money coming my way. Because of not only because of the random days that I didn't know were supposed to be there, but also because I worked an extra frickin' 6 hours this week. I figured I could afford a t-shirt. It's a Conan shirt.
Oh.
It's Arnold as Conan, and it says on it, "Grant me revenge, and if you do not listen, then to hell with you." it literally his prayer to his god. Amusing. Apparently, according to that battle, his god must have listened.
Well,
yeah.
My week's kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So, I used the Switch a little too much, and I got repetitive motion in my elbow.
Ooh.
So for the last week, or well, not quite last week, but like half week, whatever, I've been trying to keep my arm at an obtuse angle. Oh. Hurts like hell. And is finally starting to die down. And that means I haven't finished Arceus yet. Even though I'm on the last map.
Only gamers would know anything about hand injuries just from the fact that they play too much.
Well, mine is because I also hold my phone a lot. It means I'm keeping my elbow at an acute angle under 90 degrees, like for hours at a time. And eventually you get kind of like tennis elbow arthritis kind of stuff. You get bad juju.
Well, it's not. At least it's not like games from a bit back where you would burn a hole in your palm.
Actually, well, that'd be people playing the N64 way too damn hard.
Yeah.
In which case, you're getting everything that's coming to you if you're playing it that hard.
I used to get controller wrist all the time, too.
I get gamer thumb. I haven't in a while, but I definitely used to get it a lot. Have to retire the controller and just kick back and watch something on network or you replay the old recorded on tapes.
That one I never really had gamer thumb. But I used to use controllers in weird ass ways.
Yeah, and I don't know that you played Rampage on NES either.
Oh, I did.
Actually, no, that's right. You did. Didn't you actually finally get to the end?
Yes, I did.
I can't remember now. Does the end just keep repeating, or does it actually end?
I think it kept repeating.
That's what I thought.
It has been years though, so.
It's been a while since I did too, but I know I've gotten to the end. I always get to that one state that would just darken but not completely go away, and it's like, huh?
But yeah, really put a hamper on my gaming this week. On the other hand, my fiction writing has actually gotten a bit of a creative juices flowing, but
Huh.
not for any work that I've currently had published.
Oh, actually, that just reminded me. But yeah, you go ahead if you got any more to say.
Just little like side stories for one of the RPG sessions I'm in. So
Ah.
still, that's more creative than I have been in years.
Mm. I got contacted that some more of my remixes are being used in other people's works, and I'm getting credit for it.
Nice.
This guy is basically this one guy. His channel is basically focused on trying to figure out as of yet unsolved internet mysteries. There's the one he's focused on, I think for a second time now, or maybe it's a third time, is that he's trying to unravel where on earth this bizarre picture of Lily Munster from the Munsters came from. It's one that's kind of popular on the internet where she's there in a bikini, like a spiderweb bikini looking thing. And he's like, this kind of popped up out of nowhere in like the really early 90s, but we still don't know where the heck it came from. We're just curious where it came from and why it exists. Because it looks like it's most likely a really advanced Photoshop job, but other than that, we have no clue. And so for the end credits, he was using my 8-bit remix in particular of the Munsters theme.
Hmm. Well, good to know they actually credit you.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, he contacted me and basically was like, so is there any particulars you want with me using your music? I'm like, hey, just credit me for it somewhere and I'm happy because at least that does send some eyeballs this way. And it has worked a couple times now, so would not be surprised if in the next week or so I suddenly get some more comments on that particular piece.
All right. Anybody else with anything this week?
Not really.
Other than all work, no play makes mad dull boy. No.
Yeah, nothing particularly of note. I'm leaving in a few hours to head to about 7 hours. I leave for the Columbus airport, and then I'll spend the weekend at a conference in San Francisco. Between the conference and COVID, I have no idea how much of San Francisco I'm actually going to get to see, but it'll be interesting being there at least.
Hmm.
Yeah, be prepared for some wicked jet lag.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so on tonight's show, we've got birthdays and only a little bit of news. Some geek talk. Matt has his review of Shame. And then our summary, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So moving on, we have 3 birthdays this week. On the 10th, the 12th, and the 14th. How about that? 10th is the birthday of Peter Purves, who played Stephen Taylor way, way back in the William Hartnell era. He turned 83. Then, the 12th was the birthday of Nabil Shaban, who played Syl back during the Colin Baker era. He turned 69. And then finally on the 14th is an honorary birthday of Simon Pegg, who played the narrator in The Long Game in 2005, but is more recently, and this is a relative term, known as Scotty in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek.
And the narrator of a season of Doctor Who Confidential, I believe.
Yeah, that same, I think, first season.
Hmm.
Or no, I think it was the season after, because I think
That's
David
right,
Tennant
Simon-
was actually
It would have been
narrator.
after, yeah, because Peter did.
I think David Tennant only
David
did one
Tennant did.
episode of that, if I'm not mistaken.
Because I'm also remembering Simon Pegg is one of the few actors that has actually been in Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who.
Yes, he is.
Yep. Hat trick.
Anyway, he turned 52. So, happy birthday, Peter, Nabil, and Simon. Going down,
He's young enough
there
he could
is
still make Marvel and DC.
the only piece of news comes from Big Finish. It is not a new release. It is the fact that they have cast Stephen Noonan as the first Doctor for upcoming episodes. We were talking, I think it was last week,
Mm-hmm.
or no, we were just talking on chat about the recast of the
Yeah.
first Doctor,
Mm.
and it
Mhm.
just seems to be that their current adventures. They said with oh God, what's his name?
David Bradley.
Bradley is going to
Mhm.
continue, but it seems to be at
Ah.
the moment he is too busy to be doing
Mhm.
Doctor Who,
Hmm.
so they're casting a new first Doctor.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
they opened the floodgates on recasting, and they're like, well, Bradley they cast because he had actually played the Doctor in other media, and now they're like, well, we're not really holding to that restriction anymore, so we might as well have someone who's available.
hmm And so Stephen Noonan is the new cast member that will be
Hmm.
giving voice to the first Doctor.
Well, good luck, Noonan. Hope you do well.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's all the news we've got. It's been very quiet coming out of there. Of course, we're waiting for the big news on who the next Doctor is going to be, but I'm not expecting it until sometime between the Easter special and the Centennial.
Right. And
Hmm.
yeah, we still need a date for that spring special, whether it's going to be on Easter or not.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
expect to hear until after the Easter special, if that's when they're going to do it.
All right, that takes us down to Geek Talk, and it's
Mhm.
going to be a very Star Wars Geek Talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do remember to keep it to 5 minutes apiece, guys.
Yep.
Actually, matter of fact,
Um.
go ahead.
Oh yeah,
I'm
I've
going to
got.
bring up the stopwatch.
Yeah, I've got one as well. So I can have something to look at, so I don't go over potentially.
Yep, got it.
I was gonna say, don't have the stopwatch that we then forget to call people on, because that's happened before.
Yeah. But yeah.
First one,
So yeah,
Visions,
I've
go.
finally finished. Like, I don't even know when I started, but I finally got around to watching all of the Star Wars Visions shorts. I'm not saying it's kind of funny because I've seen a complaint, though it was only because of that specific person, that it's kind of annoying that they're all Jedi, but I'm like Jedi Sith themed in some way. I'm not really surprised because of what the show is and what show is, um, and all that. But honestly, I found them all at least like varying degrees of interesting. But it's also just interesting that this happened at all, because this is basically just Lucasfilm going to a bunch of either specifically anime studios or just like anime related directors or creators and just going, here, do whatever you want. Well, I say do whatever you want. I'm assuming they had to include, well, either they had to include Jedi or they had to like include specific Star Warsy elements, but otherwise were given free reign. And that's how you get, like, I think at least 2 of these are done by Studio Trigger, and I can absolutely tell. Like the first one is like, yeah, this is none of these, I mean, none of these are trying to be canon at all. So it's just, you can just turn your brain off, forget about continuity, just roll with it. And either you
Oh,
like
so
it or you don't, but yeah.
so like you wouldn't even think that these plot lines like you could potentially be referenced in like in a future Star Wars show or something.
I mean, the one funny thing is that a lot of these feel like they could be backdoor pilots for something, for like an anime show, but because like a lot of them some of them are self-contained, I feel, but a lot of the other ones are like open-ended. So it's like, okay, is the idea that this could potentially be picked up and be its own show, or did they just realize they weren't going to be able to tell a full story in the time they had? I don't know, but it it very much feels like they were allowed to just do whatever, and like it doesn't surprise me that they're all Jedi focused in some way because Japan, samurai,
Yeah.
like they're just
Yeah.
flat out going for that comparison, and hell, that's where the inspiration came from, was samurai
Yes.
movies. So it makes sense that like literally the first one is like a Ronin story. So it's like, it makes sense to actually be like, just the appeal of this is just, here is the Jedi from with a Japanese twist on it, essentially. Like a more like, this is clearly people from Japan doing their own take on this.
Yeah,
Like what Adult Swim did with Rick and Morty between seasons.
It's basically them taking Jedi to a more actual samurai route, essentially.
Yeah,
and then also going over the top of whatever anime inspirations they want to use. I assume.
And they are all varying lengths as well. So some of them are more of a time investment than others. I think the longest one is like 40 minutes or so, and the shortest one is like 12. So varying degrees of length. But anyway, yeah, I think it's worth checking out, but your mileage may vary, and you would actually have to be into anime to care at all. So yeah,
possibly, yeah. You have to be really into anime or really into Star Wars, either way.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's about all I've got on that. It's worth looking into.
Okay,
I keep meaning to watch it, and it keeps getting moved down my list by other things.
It's an anthology thing, so like you could basically watch one, stop, watch another one, stop. You're like, you can start with it because they're not connected at all.
All right.
But anyway,
so yeah, Mandalorian.
Yes. Yep. Mandalorian was funny because like I watched the first 3 episodes probably years ago when it first came out, and then just kind of fell off because that happens with me a lot. And then pretty much over the past week, I think, maybe 2, I just started. Oh no, it was literally like a couple days ago. I just basically, from there to now to yesterday, I just plowed through the rest of it. I only expected to be talking about season 1, but then I ended up plowing through season 2. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm just talking about everything so far. More of this, please. Like, this has basically nothing to, like, aside from what happens in the final episode so far, there has been no main characters at all. I mean, short of, like, again, spin-off characters, yes, like Ahsoka, and I think one of the one of the Mandalorians that shows up is from Clone Wars and Rebels, but that's about it. Like, any characters that are recurring, I either don't know or tangentially know of, but I have not really seen much of. And I'm just like, yes, this new things, please. Like, I'm kind of sick of the Skywalkers now.
The only main like movies reoccurring character was Boba Fett in the 2nd season.
Well, there's also another one in the last episode, but very short.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
that was a one-off.
Yeah.
I mean, as in recurring in the series. Yeah, no.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, Boba Fett, I let slide just because Boba Fett is like a side character in Star Wars anyway, until like sort of this, and then Book of Boba Fett, obviously. And it's so funny because I even remember last week, after we finished or before we started, going on a rant about how I kind of hate that everyone tries to make Boba Fett badass when he got essentially killed by a half-blind Han Solo in Return of the Jedi. And it's like,
He's
can't
not
really come
dead
back
yet.
from that.
He's not dead.
And I'll give them this much credit. That actor sold it for me. Like, purely that actor sold it for me. I don't know if it had been not necessarily anyone else, but like I actually bought into it. So they won me over. I'll give them that.
Okay.
That being said, I now headcanon it because I haven't seen Clone Wars. I haven't seen Rebels. I basically headcanon it as he was doing kind of shitty. He had some shit luck. And now, post Return of the Jedi, my headcanon is just that he is like, oh, this is a wake-up call. I need to get my ass in gear.
Right.
That's basically how I'm treating this now. But maybe that is true. I haven't seen Book of Boba Fett yet, but still.
Book of Boba Fett, as far as I'm aware, is after Mandalorian season 2. So
yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed this.
I think there's a few flashbacks to prior to Mandalorian season 2, but it's
I'll get to it in a second.
okay.
hold thy horses.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. It's kind of funny how they keep kind of being like, "Ooh, what does he look like under the mask?" Even though we know who the actor is, so we can easily look it up. But it is the characters don't know, so that's kind of funny. But it is still just like, well, I know what he looks like, but I was still surprised that we saw his face at all.
He could be wearing makeup or prosthetics.
Well, true. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got around to catching up, and I am definitely looking forward to season 3 later this year. I think later this year.
Yeah, sometime soon. I know. I've been hearing that the rumbles that it's coming very soon.
Although I don't think it's filmed yet.
They do most of the effects in film now with all the digital effects they're doing these days. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all I've got. Generally looking forward to seeing where this goes from here.
So that brings to Book of Boba Fett then, and Book of Boba Fett tries to do more than it has time to do, to the point where I thought that it was like a short interlude between seasons 2 and 3 of The Mandalorian, and then I was looking on Wikipedia, like, no, it's only one episode shorter than a Mandalorian season, but it gets so little done because it's trying to do a lot. So there's 3 main plots going on. One is basically setting up Mandalorian season 3. One is basically everything that happens to Boba Fett between Return of the Jedi and Mandalorian season 2. So kind of like a Highlander or an Arrow sort of thing. And then there's the actual like main plot of what's going on with Boba Fett after Mandalorian season 2. Which at first I thought it was, I was thinking, oh, it's kind of inspired by like the political intrigue of Game of Thrones. But then I realized The Godfather might be a better comparison. And if so, either way, it's not quite as effective as either of those two things, probably because it's trying to do so much. I've seen a lot of criticisms of the characters, and part of that is because they want Boba Fett to be this like unstoppable killing machine, god mode headcanon character. And part of it is because all of the main characters that like have a serious like role in Book of Boba Fett, maybe with one exception, are all of like these stoic, badass, pragmatic types like Boba Fett. So you don't have anybody who's being, there's no, a lot of the time, there's no real comic relief. There's kind of comic relief. There's no like emotional characters. So you're not getting that sort of stuff. Also, some people were pissed off that some things on Tatooine were colorful and that somehow violated the spirit of Star Wars. So that said, I definitely do not think the Book of Boba Fett was as good as Mandalorian seasons 1 or 2. It's definitely going to be required viewing if you watch Mandalorian season 3, unless they do a recap of some sort.
Which is not
I
impossible, but we'll see.
I didn't hate it. A lot of people felt disappointed. I kind of let myself go into it with no expectations because the entire concept seemed weird to me. I think I liked the flashback story more than any of the others, but it was all right. There's definitely some interesting things, and anything else is really hard to talk about without spoiling.
Mm. So that's it.
Yep.
Alrighty. So I guess the next bit is my bit now.
Yep.
So backtracking to last week, I was not here for Nightmare Man. And let me start the clock there. So, I guess going through the normal list, most favorite thing about it, honestly, I just feel like it was just a really nicely done send off for Luke. I've actually not seen this episode until now, and I was not sure how they handled it, and they handled it very well. I was worried that it was going to be a little too, way more hand wavy than it was about sending him off. Like, we'll barely get him as more than a cameo, and then bye. But
I've
it
fallen
actually,
in love with somebody. I'm going to stay behind.
but it was very much more of it actually felt like a season finale. Was this a season finale?
It was a season
it's-
premiere.
It was a season premiere. Yeah, that's very unusual to do a send off like this at the beginning of a season.
Well, I think the actor didn't realize he was leaving until between seasons.
Oh, okay. But still, it's very odd to send off a character that early in a season, and it very much felt like a season finale. But as a season premiere, that's a pretty strong premiere too. Least favorite thing, honestly, the one thing that did bother me is that that Luke didn't try a little bit harder to try and tell other people about what was going on. That was definitely felt like more than just a normal dream kind of deal. But I suppose you could kind of hand wave it that maybe the Nightmare Man was trying to convince him not to do it, even when he was awake. It's hard to say.
I know there was like a spell on him that he couldn't tell
There was
people
some
his
sort of
name,
metaphysical
but
thing where he was in his brain and he wouldn't allow him to actually call him out by name. For
that
sure,
said,
was the thing.
I think it's really weird that there was a loophole that it was okay to tell a camera.
I was actually looking for that loophole. He's like, you can't tell people directly, but there's probably a way around it. And I was right. So favorite scene. Actually, which one do I go with for a favorite scene? Actually, yeah, the trapping the Nightmare Man in
the diner thing.
In the diner, yeah, trapping the Nightmare Man in the diner with senior citizen Sarah Jane, nightmare mode, and just watching him freak out as he realizes he's trapped there for at least the time being.
You said that was your favorite?
That's definitely the favorite of mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Least favorite scene. Actually, the first time Luke is apparently seeing the Nightmare Man, I couldn't see anything. Every time he looked into the darkness and was talking to somebody who was apparently there, I'm just like, hello, what are we trying to look at here? The hole in a bowling ball? I don't know. And then you just barely make out something, then he disappears. It's like, well, thanks for lighting it so well, guys.
Well, I think that's intentional because you see his hand stick out from in the doorway, and then like he closes the door.
I didn't see Jack. It was just that dark for me, at least on my end. Yeah, I could not make heads or tails until like the last split second when he was finally getting close enough to see his face. Just ever so slightly before he woke up. So final thoughts. A really solid episode. Thank God. We after the week before having that miserable episode we had before this. Much bigger improvement. And actually, this also reminds me of some of the strengths for the show. Yeah, I wish there was some more interesting costuming for the Nightmare Man, but as a character and as a concept, that's a worthwhile returning villain almost for a show like this. And they did him really well, which is to show him in low lights, show him sparingly, and when he does big special effects things, you do it also sparingly. Don't go too over the top because it starts to ruin itself if you go too far with it. What you need is low lights, really good editing, and very good lighting. And this guy will become one of your creepiest returning villains if he comes back.
So if I remember right, your favorite scene was at least one person's least favorite scene.
Oh, really? The trapping him in a nightmare?
Yeah.
It's amusing to see him get trapped there, but I will say it is a little bit hand-wavy that he is trapped in there.
I think which
also definitely grants me the opinion that this guy could come back. This is very metaphysical, and he's a very metaphysical character. I don't expect him not to be able to undo his own more handiwork eventually.
True. Considering he's based off Freddy Krueger, and how many times has Freddy been in a similar situation?
They tried burning me. They tried putting holy water on me.
That I think that impression was a little more Hulk Hogan than Robert Englund.
No, the Hulk Hogan would be down here. But yeah. Yeah, very much a kid's version of Freddy Krueger, which, again, could be very effective if done well.
Yeah.
Even for a kid's show. Because Sarah Jane doesn't always pull punches, so it'd be interesting to see where they would go with it if they ever brought it back. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Nightmare Man.
Okay. And you didn't rate it yet, right?
Oh, the rating. Oh gosh. I think it's just high enough. Yeah, there would be a few more tweaks I would have liked to have seen for it, but otherwise, I have to say this is darn near 5.
So then we have 2 4s and 2 5s, averaging out to a 4.5.
We're all right.
Which puts it... Let's see, I'm trying to find other spin-offs in the same range. It's on par with Sarah Jane Adventures, Death of the Doctor, and Torchwood Random Shoes. It's not as good as Whatever Happened to Sarah Jane. And it's better than Torchwood Ghost Machine.
Alrighty.
Which brings us to Alex with a summary.
Yep.
So, this week's.
Okay.
Oh, right. So, reset. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Starting 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, we open on a random teenage girl breaking into a building and trying to open something behind a hidden door, only to awaken some androids who try to kill her, only for it to turn out to be a returning Androvax who discards her body to get away after she twists her ankle. After seeing with the gang screwing up a Mars probe and Rani's parents attending a meeting of a group of very reasonable people who remember aliens exist in this universe, Gita notices Androvax, who ends up possessing Rani and trying to use Mr. Smith for something. It ends up being revealed that Androvax is dying due to being poisoned and is trying to save what remains of his race, so Sarah Jane attempts to help him. The group gets the second disc needed to open the titular Vault of Secrets from Ocean Waters, the leader of the group of alien watchers, and an encounter with the Alliance of Shades androids reveals that Androvax saving his race would come at the cost of the Earth due to technobabble. After a cat and mouse chase in which Androvax takes multiple bodies, he finally gets into the vault using Sarah Jane's body and locks himself in there before they can follow him. The only android left, the other two having been destroyed by Clyde, is convinced to use the transmat technology they have to get the ship Androvax is in out of the vault without destroying Earth. But it severely depletes its energy reserves in the process. Using the last of its power, the android, which they call Mr. Dread, wipes the memory of Geeta, Rani's mum, who has mostly been along for the ride due to getting possessed by Androvax at one point. We then end on Ocean and Minty from the Alien Watchers group meeting up with everyone again, only for Sarah Jane and the crew to all pretend they have no idea what they're talking about, leaving dejected as Androvax heads deeper into space to restart his civilization. The end.
All right, that was 2 minutes and I believe 8 seconds.
When I realized a lot of it was back and forth, just Androvax takes a new body and being chased by the androids, I'm like, I can probably skim a bunch of this.
To a degree.
All right. So let's talk about what we liked about this episode. And Alex, you were first.
You know what? Seeing the Dreamland androids in live action was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, when I was looking at the article for that, I was wondering why the wiki kept referring to the android as Dr. Dread, because I was like, I don't remember anywhere in Dreamland them saying the name Dr. Dread, and now I know why they called him that.
Because yeah, it's like, oh, hey, a concept from a spin-off thing no one really cares about getting thrown into Sarah Jane. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, actually, I never realized that until just now. That's actually a concept that worked much better in this show than it did in that animation.
Yeah.
And for once with Doctor Who, the timeline actually lines up, because that was set in the 50s and this was set in the 2000s. So there's no how did they get to this time zone shenanigans.
Yeah.
Which so often happens with returning monsters in Doctor Who.
All right. So, Bill, you're next.
Okay, so where is it? So I said that Androvax was legitimately clever and also very nuanced in his motivations. I couldn't always predict him, such as the time when he pretended to die, and he was actually alive. And the plot didn't rely on everybody being idiots to fall for his tricks.
Yeah.
So often stories like this only work if you assume that all of the main characters have no brain.
Yeah.
All right. Matt?
Speaking of people not being idiots, it's very silly, but seeing Ronnie's parents making contact with others who have experienced possibly similar things to them is something you also don't see very often in Doctor Who, at least in side characters that aren't the main crew. Because occasionally they will see aliens, but then they'll barely shrug at it, and a couple episodes later, and it's hard they haven't done anything to.
Yeah.
It was
other than disbelieve
obviously it was obviously 30 people in a costume who just pretended to kill one another.
Right?
It was students.
It was students. Yeah. Very clever explanation. Wrong though. But yeah, a little bit of nuance with side characters who aren't always the main focus. Even if, again, if it's just for a little bit of a chuckle, it's still them actually doing things that people in their shoes might legitimately do.
Mm.
Okay. I take it it's down to me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I just like when they're able to recycle ideas successfully and not have to add a whole bunch of powers to make it seem impressive.
Mm.
Watch this, Moffat.
I was gonna say you have somebody in mind the way you say that.
Moffat,
I
we're
mean,
looking at
you
you.
know, yes.
Stop it with the
I
angels.
mean, the oh, what's his name? I can never remember the bad guy's name.
Mr.
Oh.
Dread?
Not Dread.
Not
Oh,
Androvex.
Androvex?
Androvex. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the same as he was before, only dying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Supposedly dying, and
And,
he's using that to his advantage because he's a clever character.
Mm-hmm. And the androids are recycled from Dreamland, only again more successfully.
More successfully, they're better written, they're better plotted.
Also, they're not taking on the Doctor, so they're a bit more of a threat.
Mhm.
And yet the Doctor didn't wipe out all except for one of them. Clyde did that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he ducked.
Dodge!
Right.
Yes, Clive
Alien threats
had a
coming at you
moment
from
of
both
clever.
sides. What do you need to do? Duck.
You're caught between two bad guys, both of them about to shoot. Yeah, literally just sit there and do what he did. 3, 2, heat!
You've got to turn friendly fire off before you surround somebody.
Anyway, I love the fact that they were able to reuse these successfully and beautifully, and it made it a wonderfully working, in continuity episode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about what we didn't like. Again, Alex, you're first.
I kind of alluded to it in my in the summary, but I've seen this episode before, but just not in a while, so I kind of forgot about the burps group.
Oh.
But it's just like I kind of hate the notion of them being played as a joke when we know this is the Doctor Who universe. Aliens do fucking exist. So why are you playing them off as crazy people?
Right.
Well, it's
to be fair, some of them might become more over the top as they try to convince people of what they've seen, and that's why it gets kind of played as a joke, because some of these might be a little too quirky after what they've gone through.
But even then, it's just like, Geeta and I can't remember the dad's name, but those two are like the normal ones who are kind of weirded out by everyone else, and it's like that, wow, people who actually remember that aliens invade all the fucking time. What a bizarre concept for Doctor
Imagine if one of them was like, "Yeah, I saw a bunch of aliens and they looked like salt and pepper shakers."
Well, I think that did happen at this point, so yeah. And another one should have remembered a troop of the robot men with handlebars.
True. So if that leads to me, mine is kind of closely related to that. And it said that I noted that despite the fact that they actively address the hypocrisy of Sarah Jane's position, there's no growth moment or arc involved. It's just, hey, this could be cruel, and also the killer robots have the same mission. And hey, now the killer robots are treating us just like we're regular people, and just like the same way we treat other people, and we don't like it. And then let's just keep doing the same thing and wipe Gita's memory. Sarah Jane was faced with the harm that her decisions make, and she decided, yeah, I'm going to keep making the same decisions. Like,
Yep.
just was not great.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
I guess I'm kind of on Bill's. My addition to that particular thought, though, would be that they needed to deal with their consequences. It is as much as it is a good idea for a show to keep the status quo. At the same time, I really think they needed to talk Gita down instead. That would have made for a better and possibly more impactful ending. Because then at least one of the adults actually knows, other than Sarah, knows what's going on.
And it would have added a dimension to Gita's character, who is not the most dimensional.
Right.
Yeah, it would have added some more dimension for her to act with, and something to progress Ronnie and Gita's relationship into being something a little more on screen too.
They didn't need to preserve the status quo. It's not like nothing ever changes in Sarah Jane Adventures, just not very often.
Yeah. Of course, it is funny because last time the parent found out about what they got up to, that was Maria, and then she left the show. So
yeah.
Yep. As for me, I kind of think they kind of missed a chance, since they were removing the character of Androvax anyway, to give him a redemption arc, you know? And instead it's like, nope, still evil.
I mean, when
still
you've
gonna
wiped
go ahead
out
even though it
12
might mean
entire
genocide for humans.
civilizations, yeah, like when you've wiped out 12 entire civilizations, it's kind of hard to come back from. I would think
didn't
for a
say
full,
all the way, but at least, you know.
At least, like, have the guy give a damn about not killing another civilization while trying to save his own.
Insert Missy's arc here.
You know, you think he would have learned something. If he had succeeded in destroying the Earth, he would have killed any chance he'd had of reviving a civilization.
I mean,
yeah,
to a degree, we don't know necessarily if he was ever going to come back after this or not, if the show had kept going. So maybe there was.
Well, if he was truly poisoned, he would have been dead anyway, very soon.
Yeah. All right, yeah, I guess.
Most likely, what he was doing at the very end of this episode was giving a final will and testament, essentially, to his people once they wake up.
Yep.
Because it is funny, because like the way that thing plays out, it's like he was just kind of expecting Sarah Jane to make that happen. So it's like, oh no, I've specifically come to you. You'll sort it out, so I don't blow your planet up. Without directly saying it to her.
Right.
Yeah, but it also, if we're playing that kind of game, it's just as easy to say that he's still a psychotic, murdering a-hole.
Right. Yeah. At the very least, they like made him less two-dimensional.
A little bit, yes.
Because at least he's doing it for like a noble-ish reason.
Okay, so favorite scene.
I feel like I had a different one, and even though this is something that I have a problem with, the fact that Sarah Jane has that little moment after like bullshitting her way around what happened to Ocean and Minty, the fact that after they walk off dejected, there's that little bit of oh shit moment where Sarah Jane's like, fuck, I really wish I didn't have to do that. is like, hey, that's at least an acknowledgement, which is better than I think any other time they've had to talk their way out of something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there was at least an acknowledgement of, oh shit, I wish I didn't have to lie to them. Which you
Yep.
don't, but again.
Right.
But still.
It's like Joe Rogan. Oh, I'm sorry, I got caught using racial slurs.
All right.
And then that leads to me, I guess.
Yep.
So mine is one of the Men in Black homages. This scene where they open the vault and then you see it pan out from the inside. It's just an amazing visual. It was only marginally ruined by Gita's inability to move on from repeating the same two words like a parrot throughout the entire scene.
Been kind of my issue with Gita constantly.
I mean, I let that slide because she's essentially in shock because she's never seen anything like this before. So she's a broken record.
Yes, she has. She's seen aliens.
Yes, she has seen
Well,
aliens.
no, I mean like the scale of what she's looking at. Rather, she's seen aliens, but she hasn't seen like the scale of this sort of. Essentially, she's never been the TARDIS, so she doesn't know that this is a thing that's possible. That I went into this space, I look into this space, and it is clearly larger than should be physically possible.
See, she doesn't even go on about that. She just keeps, again, repeating spaceship, spaceship.
Right.
Yeah.
Polly wants a spaceship.
Yeah, it's I've always had a few problems with Gita's character, and this just kind of shows it all. So, Matt.
Favorite scene?
Yes.
In particular, actually, a little bit of a dialogue with Clive at one point. It does start to show that the boy has been not completely dense in what's been going on, and he starts to reminisce with Ronnie about the fact that things do seem to happen very frequently for a reason, and a lot of things seem to be tied into one another inexplicably. Time, space, and the universe seem to have a rhyme and a reason to it, and things just seem to match up just when they need to.
Almost as if it's all secretly a television show.
That or already pre-planned by a very experienced chess master.
Careful, Clive. You're about to break the fourth wall. Anyway, I think that takes it to me. And I think my favorite scene is a pure Terminator ripoff.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Where Sarah just disables Dread's car.
With her
and
magic
he gets
wand.
out of it. And he gets out of it, and the guy behind him's honking. It's just like, yeah, it looks like you need a new motor. It's like, fine, I'll take yours. Lifts off the door.
Rips off the door,
And-
looks at him, please leave the vehicle. The British nice way of saying, get out.
Get out, yeah. And yeah, it's just such a Terminator homage. I'm just like, oh, that's beautiful.
Literally the only thing missing was to have a deep bassy synth going in the background. Boom. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. Okay. Least favorite scene.
Ooh.
You know what? Them getting into the vault, because how the fuck did no one realize that Sarah was possessed until it was too late?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
that's
Andrew Rax is putting on a bit of an act at least instead of like Elizabeth Sladen doing the typical voice she does when possessed by him. But it's still like, come on, this has been happening all the time, and she actually is trying to get into the vault, like, which she wouldn't be. So, like, why would they
Yeah,
be believing so blindly that it's her?
I was watching that for any sign that they would be able to recognize that she was possessed, because you look at it like they're, other than knowing that Andrew Rex is there, she's probably the person they most trust to deal with it when they're in over their heads. And there wasn't any sign that they could see that she was possessed until the last minute when she did the tongue thing. There was like some rolling horizon shit, but it was all facing away from them at the camera, not at the kids.
I mean,
I watched
she
her,
is
her
pretty,
mannerisms, and her mannerisms were off.
yeah.
And
Plus, she's very
these kids have known her for how long now?
right, yeah, and she's also very flippant about like Andrew Vax is very flippant about claiming that he's dead. And it's like, I don't think
That's
Sarah
true.
Jane
That's
would be
true.
that flippant about a villain dying, even if even if it's a villain. I doubt
That's
she'd
true.
be that flippant about them dying. So
Yeah,
it's a bit
I'll
like, wait, what?
definitely give you that. I remember that was such a quick moment, and they did not seem to react to it at all either.
Mm.
So that
Okay.
brings it to me then.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the scene in front of Sarah Jane's house. Sarah Jane is here gaslighting this woman whose name I can't quite remember, who has spent the past 40 years
Ocean.
traumatized over the fact, Ocean. That's because her name sounds like an organization or something.
Yeah.
She spent the past 40 years traumatized, trying to prove to herself that her memories were something that actually happened to her, and she's not just disconnected from reality. And then she gave her validation for like a minute earlier in the episode. Here she just yanks it out of her feet and be like, "No, I have no idea what you're talking about. You made up meeting me."
Mm.
Not cool.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, if she told them everything that was going on and, like, you have to keep this on the down low so we don't make the entire world fucking panic, then, like, so, like, actually taking the time to explain it, I'm pretty sure these people would be reasonable enough to go, okay, you know what? Yeah. So long as you actually explain it to them properly.
It doesn't help that a lot of the time the only reason they can't tell the government is because then the status quo would not look like the real world, and it would look more like a sci-fi show, and they want it to look like the real world because otherwise they would have more difficulty, having everything set in modern day England.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the difficulty is finding that right balance where things don't go too far that things would just completely go awry.
To say one thing positive about the K9 show, at least people know that aliens exist.
Yeah. So I take it we're at me.
Actually, I believe
At
it's to
Matt.
me.
Oh, Matt. Okay.
Least favorite scene we're at?
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to ponder what would be my least favorite. Um, um, no, that's not really one either. Oh gosh, I actually have a hard time trying to think of anything that wasn't already mentioned. Um, I would almost complain about the Clive scene where he dodges the robots and makes them blow each other up, but to be honest, it's not like it's a bad scene, and it's not like these aren't older robots that probably don't have the right programming to realize that's a problem. So it's very much a maneuver they wouldn't be aware of. But if these were newer robots and they were it was a bit of a newer show, I would think outside of maybe the off moment like we've had recently, doing that maneuver would not be as much of an instant success as it should be, or as it was in this particular episode.
It worked on the Daleks.
Yeah, it seems the dogs continue to have that blind spot for whatever reason, even though it's bitten them in the ass so many times.
Which blind spot?
Not shooting themselves.
Mm.
It has literally ended the war for them. You'd think they learned after that one in particular.
What? No.
No.
That's because they got their kill lust going.
Yeah, too much of a kill lust. And again, I would complain that it's been used maybe almost too much at this point, but this is even before they started using it as much as they do now. So I'll say it's a little meh, but at the same time I'll allow it, especially since the jokes we can make with Clyde picking up those glasses is so amusing. So it's at best a nitpick.
Okay. Speaking of cliches, my least favorite scene goes back to the very beginning. And the unnamed girl, as she's fleeing...
twists her ankle.
Twists her ankle. Because it is A, such a cliche, and B, the sound effect they used for twisting that ankle. Oh, dear Lord. That didn't sound like a twist. That sounded like she freaking broke off her foot.
Yeah, actually, my toes curled because it actually sounded like she might have accidentally stepped on something at high speed, and that just made me go, "Oh, I've stepped on things before too."
I just heard that. I'm like, "Oh God!
Oh God, my toes! I need to protect my feet now." Hi, yes, show. Oh, seriously, just twist the ankle. Are you flipping me? Oh, for hell's sake!
Yeah. So the sound effects people completely oversold it. And it is just such an old cliche. I mean, Susan did it like every other serial in Doctor Who.
I guess they had maybe they had the same idea that I do, which is that a lot of the time when people supposedly twist their ankle on screen, it looks like they just trip and then all of a sudden sit down, and there doesn't really seem to be any indication that anything actually happened to their ankle. So they're like, yeah, we're going to make it super obvious that something happened to her ankle.
Yeah, but there's such a thing as overselling it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they oversold it. Oh God, that sound effect just gives me I'll have nightmares.
Yeah, I'm protecting my foot again.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so up to final thoughts. And Alex, you're first.
Yep. It's funny. I haven't seen the other episode with Andrew Vax in a while, but it is interesting that this was a return villain. I mean, I guess you might as well get as much mileage out of the costume while you still can. Especially when this has a lower budget than New Who. Yeah, it was interesting.
They really didn't skip on the costuming that much. Because all the costumes went right back into the Doctor Who costume library.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was interesting that I forget if they tried to say that not so much justify, but tried to say that part of the reason that Androvax went down the path he did was seemingly because his civilization was pretty much destroyed.
Yeah. They did. They say that pretty bluntly, actually, in this one in particular.
So you kind of have an actual So you kind of have an actual explanation for it, because I don't think it came up in his first appearance.
It did, but very lightly.
Ah, okay. So yeah, generally, I guess following up on that then, and then actually trying to make him less of a two-dimensional character was nice before sending him off. I mean, it's kind of funny because we don't actually see him die. So if they really had wanted, they could maybe bullshit that he somehow was miraculously saved.
Yeah, he definitely could still theoretically show up in an episode in like November, and like anytime.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I feel like the Alliance of Shades androids I mainly prefer here because in Dreamland they feel like an afterthought, whereas here they're actually part of the main plot from the get-go. And it's an easy enough costume to do. The only real thing they had to do was make live action versions of the gun hands.
And the first second you see those gun hands, the first thing that goes through your mind is Auton!
Yeah, Auton.
Yeah.
Except they don't do it the same way, so it's like, wait, that's not an Auton, even though it has some very big similarities.
Yeah. And it's funny because I don't even think I made the Dreamland connection until like either someone else brought it up off stream or like something to that effect, and like I was just like, oh right, yeah. The exact same thing.
I think last week, either in the chat or on or in when we were talking, I said something about the next episode trailer having the androids from Dreamland.
Yeah, I definitely think this is worth checking out, and now that we have one less, I guess you could just call them companions, one less kid anyway. Ronnie and Clyde had a bit more to do.
Yeah, you notice they're really pushing that Ronnie and Clyde will they or won't they kind of. Clyde obviously has a thing for Ronnie that he's hiding.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to play that up either.
And I'm guessing that never came to any resolution, especially considering what happened.
I think they were expecting to reveal it or deal with it in season 5 or season 6, and it never happened.
Yeah, it might have even been one of those things where like they were gonna become a couple and then leave or something.
When they go off to college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might be just started dating and then they're going off to college, and then that's when they would leave together, most likely.
Because they do set up a new like sort of a replacement for Luke
in the next season. 5.
Yeah.
A lot younger. Because it was going to be a younger generation, and then I it still depresses me to this day. Because Elizabeth Sladen was still pushing out so much talent.
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, not only in this episode but also in Nightmare Man, seeing her act in multiple different ways so easily. And in particular, whenever she has someone taking over her body, the on-off switch she has built in as an actress. Holy cow.
Like, yeah, very clearly she's having the time of her life because she's like, oh, thank God, I'm not just... As much as she would have enjoyed playing Sarah Jane again, it's like, oh, thank God, I actually get to do other stuff as well. Within the show.
I think that goes for anybody that's in a main leading role. Because the few times you get to see Matt Smith act outside of his box.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to have a ball.
He has a ball, and you can tell.
Yeah.
This is at least the second time that Ronnie has been possessed.
And she seems to have no issue playing monsters either now.
Oh, yeah. Very true. Very true.
It's just fun. It's just a moment you get to be a little different and have fun.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just saying that that Elizabeth Sladen was a talent. Sarah Jane
Hmm.
herself was a treasure,
Yeah.
and that day
Hmm.
in 2011 was terribad.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
All
All
right.
right.
So my final thoughts is this episode frustrates me because it has a lot of enjoyable things in it. It's got a lot of Terminator, a lot of Men in Black. The main cast do great. The returning concepts are performed pretty well. But then again, it also makes me kind of root against Sarah Jane and makes her come off as the bad guy, despite the fact that it clearly does not seem to intend to do that, which really affects my ability to seriously enjoy the episode as a whole. So I can like bits of it, but when I take it all at once, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Um, it would be interesting to see if any more ever came of burps, although I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
See, I
Um,
would have found it amusing
hmm?
if they would have been the local division of Linda.
Ah, that would have been interesting.
But I suspect they're like, let's just bury that.
Yeah, which is funny because the way they kind of treat them as a joke is almost the way Linda was treated.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Um, but that said, especially if you look like if you look at the idea that the kids who had started watching Sarah Jane 4 years earlier or three, but depending on if the seasons all start at the same time, even if they were 3 years older, they aged a bit and they would have been interested in slightly more mature stories than Gita and her being a parrot. Hell, by the fourth book, Harry Potter had completely shifted in tone because the audience had aged. Um, I would have loved the idea that okay, in season 4, we're having the sit down with Ronnie's parents and telling them everything that's going on, and there's going to be a slightly new dynamic. It would have been so interesting, and that absolutely did not happen.
Hmm.
And that's it for me.
Yeah. The problem with that, Bill, is that BBC assumes that new persons as other watchers get older, you're still picking up younger ones.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
Yeah, as much as
they're
we would
still
want to advance, it's still technically aimed at only a specific age group.
yep.
Hmm.
It was really supposed to be a gateway drug into Doctor Who, which had become more family viewing rather than children's programming at this point.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's funny
Okay.
to think. I think these cast are older than the characters in class were supposed to be, and that was
Some
marketed
of them
toward
for
us.
sure.
That was marketed toward an older audience than SJA was.
All right, Matt.
So final thoughts. Yeah, there's definitely some nitpicks to be had here, and there's definitely some script rewrites I would have wanted, especially with how they ended certain things in this particular story. But I will say the first 3/4 of that is of this in particular is still a really good and very interesting episode, and it's again one of those things where they don't pull too many punches for the kids, despite this being a kids show. You got
Hmm.
killer androids. You got a psychopathic murderer alien who is trying to redeem himself, but still has some bad tendencies, and they're trying to still help an entire alien race without destroying the Earth, etc., etc. And just a lot of really interesting ideas, and some of them obviously borrowed, but still really well done. And even on the tight shoestring budget Sarah Jane Ventures has, they did a really good job again. And yeah,
All right.
they got the alien in one more time before that mask in particular wore thin, I assume, which is also a good idea to bring it back for. Is to like, okay, it's still in good shape, still fits the actor. Let's do it at least one more time and give the character a send off. of some descript.
All right, you done, Matt?
Yep.
So, I'm opinion. This was a great sequel to one of their earlier episodes, which was fairly well done. They brought back. Actually, it's a double sequel since Dreamland, I guess, could also be considered
Oh, true.
source
Yeah.
material, and they did it very well in the characterization of both races, or both bad guys, I should say.
Yeah.
They had an intriguing story that was only brought down by A, having to include Ronnie's mother, and B, putting Sarah Jane into a moral conundrum where she couldn't win. And Bill doesn't like how Sarah handled it. Personally, I'm thinking with Gita, there's no stopping stupid. So there was no other choice to make. But that might be that I'm a little jaded.
Yeah, as
It
much
would
as
have
I
been
would hope they
interesting.
could talk her down, at the same time, the character is very much written in a certain direction. It's like, maybe they couldn't.
She's stupid and stubborn. It's a bad combination.
Mm.
And it makes you wonder what the doctor would have had to do in that same situation. And
Doctor, I think, would have talked to her husband, who's somewhat less stupid.
yeah, but the husband has about as much control over Gita as I have control over the weather. She does what she wants, and he just kind of goes along because it's easier than trying to argue with her. She wants to go to an alien meeting. He doesn't. He gets dragged along.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
He's whipped. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else could have been done in that situation.
And as much as you don't want to hide that stuff from Burps, at the same time, what do you allow? Because, again, there's the possibility of things going a little too far there.
And, these people are much of the same lines as Gita. We'll tell the news, we'll tell everybody, we'll tell this, and that's either going to bring all the press down on the area, or they're all going to be seen as madmen and tossed
Well,
away.
I
And
think
further
with
mocked.
burps, they're smart enough to realize that no one outside of their little group is going to believe them.
You would almost hope so, but you can't totally guarantee either.
Because they're just like, wow, wait until the group hears about this, rather than Gita, who's like, oh, we'll be on the news.
And if the entire group was in solidarity, they could have distracted Gita with another shiny thing, and she would have been less likely to go to the news.
Yeah, but remember, a group is only as secure as the lowest common denominator. Somebody might have been like, oh, well, it's time to tell the press, because why not? They don't have anything writing on it. Again, this could be I'm a bit jaded, but still. I didn't think Sarah Jane had much of a choice. So I'm not really deducting that from this, and other than like I said, the annoyance of Gita, I pretty much enjoyed this episode through and through. Let's rate it. Alex, you will be rating first.
Yeah, I will give this a 4.5.
I think I'm going to be the lowball this week with a 3.0.
Ouch.
Everything balances out to the middle. It's a seesaw.
Oh, I'm gonna flashback right on this one because I have to say, one episode after the other, I was just more and more impressed today. So I'm still very much sitting on that. Yeah, this is about a 5. This is very close to a 5. It's, again, some minor retweaks. maybe a little bit of rewriting on one character or two, and this would have been perfect for me.
All right. I can't quite give it a 5. I think it could have been with less Gita, but nah, it gets a 4.5 from me. So with Bill's horrible taste in the mouth, it comes down to a 4.25, which puts this
Still no time lash.
at 129 out of 413 things reviewed. It is. See if there's anything on par with it. On par with the Day of the Clown and Prisoner of the Jadoon, which was, of course, the prequel.
Oh, there you have it.
It is better than Warriors of the Kudlak, and not as good as Enemy of the Bane. So there you have it. 128 out of 413, or 129 out of 413 things reviewed. That is all we have to say about Sarah Jane Adventures, The Vault of Secrets.
All right. So those listening, please let us know in the comments. Who do you agree with? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Matt? Are you somewhere in between? Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell to get our exports to YouTube every week. Or
And
follow
please
us on...
let us know if you think Bill needs to be kicked in the dick for his low scoring.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitch to get our streams every Tuesday night.
Right, so next week, we're going to do one more Sarah Jane this month. Just one. One more Sarah Jane. As we are going to go for our final run at Sarah Jane Adventures, The Empty Planet. Written by Gareth Roberts and starring Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, Daniel Anthony as Clyde Langer, Angeli Wahinda as Ronnie Chandra, and Alexander Armstrong as Mr. Smith. It's a lot less cast than there was earlier, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will see you then.
Amen.
Everybody needs a pooper. That's why they invited you.